To order. First item of business is consideration of the minutes from 8:25, meeting minutes. Any changes, any information that anyone would like to change?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, we're going to open it up for a public hearing and consideration of an application submitted by St. Croix County for a conditional use permit to develop approximately 10 acres of cropland on the County Government Center, 101 Carmichael Road, St. Croix County. The public is invited to comment in regard to the application submitted by St. Croix County for a conditional use permit to allow crop production in the PUB public district of the St. Croix Government Center, 1101 Carmichael Road. The purpose for crop production is approximately 10 acres as located at the southeast quadrant of the Government Center parcel near the intersection of Carmichael Road and Vine Street. The legal description is part of the southeast one quarter, section 19T 29 North R 20 West, City of Hudson, St. Croix County, Wisconsin. So that's why we're here tonight. Is there anyone who would like to speak to that? Mr. Malik, if you would step forward and give us your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do I turn this on or is it?
No, it's on.
It is on. Good. I'm Buck Malik. Hello. And I live at 413 Brookwood Drive. It's located in the town of Hudson. As you might know, I'm a county supervisor, and a part of my district includes City of Hudson property. Approximately half of the people in the district I represent are in the western part of the town of Hudson, and the rest are in the northern and eastern part of the city of Hudson. And I'm on the county's administration committee, which came up with this proposal. I have with me today Bob Heisey. He's the department head of our Land and Water Conservation Department, and so he's probably the closest thing we have to a farming expert. We have some land up around our New Richmond Health Center that we have been renting to a farmer for many years. And Bob manages that rental contract, that relationship with the farmer. And so the administration committee asked him to give us assistance with this. Down there in the southeast corner, and there's a map on that easel that Mr. Donald put up for you, I think, for the purpose of showing what we're looking at. In the southeast corner of the government center property is an area there that's kind of a brownish color. That for roughly the first 10 years after the county bought this property from the Booty family, was cropped for hay. Patrick Kinney used to cut the hay on there, and for some reason it stopped, and I don't know why we stopped having Pat cut that, but now it's grown up into volunteer trees and weeds, and there are some natives there, but not, as far as we know, particularly unusual native plants or particularly high value plants. And in recent years, you might recall I was chairman of the county board and made attempts to try to persuade my colleagues that we should sell off the extra land that we had no hope or no intention of ever using. I couldn't get the county board to agree on that goal, so we still own it. But in recent years, it would have cost us money to clear that land again of its volunteer trees and weeds or whatever is growing there. And so it's gotten worse and worse. Now, the value of row crops has gone up so much, that is like corn and soybeans, that it would now be possible to have a farmer clear that land and grow a crop on it. It happens that in the town of Hudson property that's immediately south of the intersection, the family name is Atwood, a farmer named Jeff Beer has been farming that for many years. And he is the only farmer I know of, frankly, who is interested in farming as small a parcel as this It's estimated to be around 10 acres. But he is interested in doing it, and we have approached him with a concept that he seems to like, which would be that he'd clear the land, and for the first year he'd pay no rent. So he'd have the first year's crop entirely at no cost to him, which would help to cover his cost of doing the clearing, which is probably a bulldozer and small backhoe or some sort of gripper type of thing, and yank the roots out, the trees out by the roots. And then he'd have the crop free, and then in the next 3 years, he would pay us rent. That's our thought, a 5-year contract. Either party could break it upon notice to the other, and if he had put a crop in already and it was still part of the season, then we'd have to make him good for his costs. That's a fairly typical way of having a contract that's interruptible. So that is the concept that we brought to you, and that requires a conditional use permit, I gather, from the nature of the zoning category that this is in, sort of a public category that excludes large-scale agriculture, I guess. And so you'll have to, if you want to do this for us, you'll have to figure out that it's appropriate to allow us to have farming on that property. That's kind of the background, I think. Bob and I are available for any questions that you might have, and I'm sure you have plenty. And Dennis has been involved in this and very helpful to this point.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this issue?
Mayor Burchell,
Yes.
may I please understand where it is exactly, because I just can't, I understand south.
You see the red box?
This is Carmichael Road on the east side. This is County Government Center. Carmichael Road. This is Vine Street. And this is the 10 acres. This is where the small shopping area, the water tower is located right here.
The softball fields are a little bit east of that.
No, I know where it is. Thank you.
This is the YMCA. So just west,
Thanks, Cindy.
east of the YMCA.
I have a question. The main concern questions were raised about fertilizing water table, test wells in the area.
Typically, we don't ask questions during the public hearing.
We have
If you
to
want to
close
close
it.
the public hearing and go into discussion, we
I move to
be
close
the
the public
appropriate
hearing.
time.
Is there, well, before we do that, is there anyone else that wants to speak to that issue? Okay.
I asked that already, that's why
Right,
I
well,
jumped on it.
3 times.
I
Three
moved to
times.
close the
All right,
public
is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. The public hearing, all in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now Fred.
Same question again. There's concern over fertilization. What would a farmer do that would, are you putting any restrictions on that, or is that anything in the eyes of the county that the city should be concerned with? I guess I'm of the school that if Atwoods have that farm and they're doing that there, that's in close proximity. I don't know what the city does in town with properties that are right by the water towers and like that, as far as, people are fertilizing their lawns and all that stuff. So I'd like some clarification in that issue, if I could please, as to what the county will require, direct and or prohibit, or what it would be what considered normal. I don't know. Please.
I can answer that question. What the producer would be required to do is, we would work with them on setting up a conservation plan. Part of that conservation plan would also include a nutrient management plan. So then that producer would be required to apply to nutrients to the crop needs. So essentially, what you're not doing is just, it's not an open season where they're just going to put fertilizer on there, but they're applying it to the agronomic needs of that crop. And that's, and essentially now when you start looking at the cost of fertilizers, that's what producers are doing now, because it costs a lot of money to put some of those chemicals and nutrients on there now. So everybody's watching those costs awful close.
Are the, phosphorus has always been a big issue and some other things. I don't know the status of laws. Are those things banned now? I mean, anything that could potentially cause contamination of groundwater, are there any limits or anything to those, even though you made the statement that you did? Again, concern over the water, the test well that's in that area.
Are there any limits?
Well, I mean, what restrictions, I mean, when you say they fertilize to the crop, does that mean he can throw phosphorus on it? What does that
Oh,
mean?
chances are, if he takes soil tests, and he'll probably take soil tests out there,
Right.
and it determines that he does need phosphorus, I would probably anticipate the producer would add phosphorus to the needs of the crops.
What crops is it again? Is it
It-
corn and soybean?
It's essentially what it's gonna be is corn and soybeans, and that's very typical of what the producer is doing just south.
So what, you say that they fertilize to the needs of the crop, so I'm not a farmer, so explain to me what needs are there for corn and soybean for fertilization and in general, I mean, he has land across the street, so I'm sure I'm gonna assume that this soil is similar, if not close, to what he has
Very
across the street.
similar.
So what are do we know what the needs are now, how much he fertilizes now and what fertilizers he's using currently?
Well, what he's gonna generally apply is a nitrogen. He's gonna apply a phosphorus, and he's gonna apply probably some potash. And we'll have to determine out there too, whether it's what if he's gonna have to lime it at all, as far as neutralizing the soil. And that's all gonna be determined once we take some soil tests out there.
Are there any other working farm areas in proximity to city wells today that we already have in place?
No, there's no farm in the city.
Well, I had to ask.
No, I'm just.
Paul?
What's the term of the lease or contract?
It would be, though, very similar to our contract that we have up at the county farm up at the New Richmond. It would be a 4-year contract.
A 4-year contract?
Mike, I have a concern. I don't like messing with our wells, even, and not knowing what he's going to need to put on there and what he's not. And I mean, it's not like you can just throw malorganite down, I mean, he's going to have to put chemicals on this. And I'm not a big fan of chemicals near wells purposely, you know what I mean? Obviously, people have yards and stuff, and I get that, and they fertilize, but this is a little different to me than someone's quarter-acre lot that he's fertilizing versus cropland. So I'm a little concerned. I mean, I kind of wish they could test the soil before to see what he would be. Maybe he would know. So you're saying if he tests the soil, he would know what type of fertilizer he'd be putting on there, and maybe it would give a better idea as to how dangerous it is for the well, if it's dangerous at all. That's kind of where I'm thinking.
Okay,
So,
has everyone read the, Mr. Caruso's
yeah.
recommendation to us? We have a test well there. It's within our, what would you call it, the sphere of influence?
Wellhead protection,
Yep.
typically, if we had a permanent well, which we do not currently have, it'd be prohibited. Agricultural practices would be prohibited, excuse me. In this case, we have a test well. Mr. Crusoe saying that the water utility has not made a final determination where to drill a well there. Been to caution on conservative side, the water utility is asking that the application be denied.
Have we learned any new information that would change his mind? It doesn't sound like we have.
No.
Is there any time frame on his comments? In other words, okay, there's a pilot, whatever, that well there, but I mean, do they plan on doing something in 5 years, 10 years, or doesn't it make any difference?
At this point, there was some discussion at one point about not drawing a permanent well there, but again, that decision's not been made. The test well does exist, and that's their concern. At this point, if you want to delay action on it, and I have further conversations with Mr. Crusoe, that's could be considered.
I have a question, because when we did not annex that land to the north and to the east of the Prairie School, we had the same concern with that water tower there and the septic systems that were going in there in that wellhead protection zone. Because some of those properties, it was my understanding, were within that perimeter. Is that true, Denny?
Sure looks like it.
I don't recall that, is why I'm asking the question.
Well, it'd be in the 20-year zone of influence, there'd be a few lots in there.
Anyone have anything else?
Well, outside of the 10 acres, what is the status of the land there? At one point, it was my understanding the county was considering giving that to the Wisconsin Land Trust, which in turn would be given to the city for a park. What are the other plans outside the 10 acres that you have at this point, or are you still just no plans?
They've not been able to achieve a consensus among the county board. There are some who want to hold it, assuming that somehow the county's needs for buildings would grow so dramatically that we need the whole thing. And there are others like me who think government has no business holding on to assets that it has no foreseeable need for. We are about to, we've changed our form of government, and we have 19 supervisors instead of 31, and we have a county administrator instead of an administrative coordinator. So we are about to get into a strategic planning in a little more serious and more methodical way, more like cities do it than the way counties do it. And I am hopeful that out of that will emerge some serious thought about the excess land here, but we're not there yet. Okay. If you'll let me, if you decide that you can't recommend allowing the kind of farming that requires any additives or that calls for additives even at the put on take off level of fertilizers, it's not as good an alternative, but there would be other things we could do to keep that from being such an eyesore. For example, would you allow us to simply cut and remove biomass? Now, I don't know if you'd call that farming under your ordinance or not, but if we put nothing on it, could we at least cut it off? That's one question. Could
Kenny,
we?
you're gonna have to answer that question.
Well, I mean.
Is that just a
I mean,
definition
You're gonna
question?
mow it and then manage it that way, or are you gonna leave it, I mean, you're not leaving bare ground, and that's.
Oh, no, I don't mean.
You talking
bare
about
ground.
hay?
No, I mean, we want it to look good.
A hay crop, is that what you're thinking?
I was thinking of maybe if we repeatedly cut it, we could convert it back to hay just by cutting. It wouldn't be as swift to get there, as something else. Or could we graze it as a way of controlling the weed population or the
With cows?
cows
steers
or goats. Some places in the southern part of the state have used goats because they'll even eat buckthorn, which, by the way, was not named after me.
Mr. Malik, it would be nice if you would, I don't see it as a eyesore, at least
I was
where I look at it, but the tourist information that I believe the county is upkeeping, that one could be upkept a little bit better than it is right now. I would appreciate that to be done because it's kind of an eyesore. I believe you guys are contract with the state to upkeep that, aren't you?
Tourist Information Center?
The old one that's been shut down?
I don't think so.
Oh, I think you are.
Do you think our highway department
Yes.
has a contract to do
Yep.
maintenance on that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, our highway department usually spends every dollar the state will give them,
I
quite
know.
frankly.
Well, it's been, and if I'm incorrect on that, then I apologize, but it's probably every 3 to 4 weeks it's been cut instead of on a 6 weeks, and that's more of an eyesore in the city than I think the county land is, in my opinion.
Sure, and I can appreciate how you might think that. I wasn't aware of that. I'll certainly follow up on it.
And if I'm wrong, I apologize for that.
No,
But I
no
was told it
apology
was-
would be needed.
No.
No, the Tourist Information Center is in a highly visible place.
Right.
That's, one of our portals.
Yep.
The counties tend to think a little bit more in terms of volunteer growth, maybe than cities do, because we're used to an environment in which people are required to cut what were historically called noxious weeds.
Mhm.
And the notice would come out from the county or the town telling people, either you cut your noxious weeds or we'll do it for you and send you the bill. So our county supervisors look at that as a bunch of noxious weeds, that we are not living up to the example of what we're asking other people to do. So, you know, it's just a difference in viewpoint. And I guess my last thought, again, if you can't let us put on enough fertilizer for a farmer to make it work, then we have the cutting the biomass, we have the possibility of grazing it to manage it. How about community gardening? Is that an acceptable thing here? If we, similar to what's done, you know, behind Faith Community Church and around the hospital?
I mean, you know, other than parking issues, those types of things, I think it'd be a very good use of the property.
I'm bringing it up so that we don't have to submit another application if you know, deny the one we've got.
But don't we need to, I mean,
Yeah.
aren't we just looking at this one application?
At
and
this
there's
time,
been
I think some of their uses that Mr. Benigle's bringing up, we probably could look at approving administratively, so.
Well, you know, even neater from our point of view would be say, we won't give you what you want, but here's what you can have. And if you can
I
see
don't
your
think
way to
that's
do
on
it.
the agenda tonight,
Right,
Mr.
are we just discussing this one application?
What's-
I
what-
think the significance of Mr. Malik's comments is if the application is denied, there are some alternative considerations the city can review, and the answer is yes. I think, you know, we try to work with them on their property.
Okay, I have I don't know, maybe, again, because I don't have such knowledge on the situation with the Vine Street and the way the water is flowing down Vine Street these days and stuff. So if they were to graze it down, or if they were to, you know, cut it down for hayfield or whatever the other option is, if we choose to not go forward with this option, how will that affect the topography there when we have heavy rains and stuff? Is it going to make situation worse? Because I assume that kind of stops the,
I know the area right below there is a kind of a natural, what was it, the 100-year flood area?
Swell, yeah.
So it's kind of a holding area that was developed probably right before it gets to the office building. I think that's a real low point. I think that was what did we call it, Denny?
But it'd still be a permeable area. I
Sure.
mean, you're going to, you know, the rain's gonna infiltrate into the ground.
right?
As long as it's not managed where you have open soils, and, you know, that should be fine. I mean, if they wanna mow it down and manage it that way, without use of fertilizers and pesticides, that's no different than us mowing the St. Croix Business Park.
Sure, yeah, I understand it, but I was just wanting to make sure that I was on the right
I think
train of
it's a
thought.
naturally contained area too. There's a bowl there if you
Yeah.
drive through there.
Yeah, I've
where everything stays there.
There's not an outlet to that
Okay.
area at this time.
Right.
And I remember, Buck, when they did mowing there, they did for years. They took the hay off there, so.
Well,
I don't think there was any more water runoff
No.
during that time than there is now.
Nope.
Would be 601 half dozen be like,
I agree.
if you're looking for a use of it, for the property, I'd like to see it donate the land of the city so we turn into a park and public services.
Yep.
We've talked about for years having a fire station or other public service, not that we can do that now financially, but at some point in that area.
I'm sure they'd be willing to sell some of it, possibly.
Well,
I don't know if they'd donate it. I probably wouldn't
it's
think
the
they would.
people's land and,
But it's all the county's
so-
land.
But anyway, I'm not comfortable with this request, and I think will make a motion to accept Mr. Crusoe's a request to deny the conditional use permit. So I'll make a
I'll
motion
second it.
to do that.
Pardon?
We have to go back into session.
We're in
No,
session.
we already did.
I'll second that.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Item number 3 is the request to vacate 30 feet of street right-of-way of Myrtle Street that lies west of First Street adjacent to the properties 925 First Street and 1001 First Street, Roxanne Dean Hanson, Sarah Atkins Hoggett, and John Hoggett.
Well, this is request, does everybody know this location of west side of First Street? I think some of you've been on the planning commission for a while, looked at this issue at least once, but a few years ago, the city of Hudson vacated 18 feet on the north side of this 66-foot right-of-way and 18 feet on the south side, and retained 30 feet in the middle. Basically the length of the single-family residential lots. The purpose of retaining the 30 feet was to provide a public area where storm sewer main could be installed. That issue was, at least my understanding, that stormwater's has been diverted further south, and the need for a 30-foot easement may be reduced. I did provide minutes of a public meeting for Public Works where they're recommending denial of the request for discontinuance or vacation of this public right-of-way. I guess there's two options, one saying no altogether, and that would be the possibility of recommending reducing it further but still retaining a reduced area such as 15 feet or 16 feet for a pathway, and possibility of allowing the fire department to gain access in that way. Mr. Zuli's comments at the Public Works was that this area wasn't developed by the Parks Department yet because of availability of funds. So at this point, at least the Public Works Committee recommended denial of the request for discontinuance.
Has everyone been down there and taken a look at this?
Yes.
Okay. Well, as far as in my opinion, the fire truck, there's absolutely no, in my opinion, and I know it's contrary to the fire department, if you go down about 35 to 40 feet, I think it's Orange Street. Is it Orange or Myrtle? Orange, I believe.
Orange.
You can drive right in there with a fire truck. So I don't know, the way it sits today, we'd have to do, I don't think you'd make a fire truck go down that hill, if you could.
The bank's too steep.
Yes.
The bank is
So,
too steep.
I don't know what the fire department is looking at there, but they could come around behind if they had to get in there, but I don't know the exact reason why they would need to go down that particular location. But there is an access within maybe 40 feet. And so from that perspective, I don't, and again, Jim isn't here tonight to tell me he has a different concern there, but, so I don't see a fire need there. And the same thing goes for having access through the park. You can walk down another 30 feet, and if you go the other side, it's probably 2/10 of a mile to walk down to the walking path through the, I don't remember the street. But you can get it on Orange too. I think it's Orange Street.
It's this, yeah, the street that ends, right, I know what you're
Yep.
talking about.
I think they used to have a kind of a boat launch there.
There is over by Norwood's
Yeah,
place. Yeah, still is.
Unimproved, but
Unimproved boat launch. I think a lot of kayaks go in there and canoes and.
I question Tommy's remark, Zuli's, the stormwater was redirected to the south end of First Street during the reconstruction project several years back. Well, what's he implying, that they'd come back and change that again?
I don't know. I guess he's not here to
no,
talk.
I think what he's saying is 7 years ago when First Street was reconstructed, he modified the flow of the stormwater. Rather than going west, it's going south on First Street at that location. There would not need to be a future modification sending it west through this area.
Is there anything buried in that property?
Not that I'm aware of.
It sounds like, I'm kind of with your line of thinking, I think, though, it sounds like they're thinking if we redirect the sewer down, or the storm lines downtown, that we might actually go through there.
No, it's too far north.
Right, so I don't understand why the downtown, what the concern is for downtown.
There isn't, there's.
Well,
no
that's what
down-
he's saying here, though, issues resolved in the downtown area. The stormwater issues. That's where I'm stuck. Is there, does that mean there's a possibility that once we start analyzing through our 5-year plan that we're working on to analyze the stormwater issues down Vine Street and downtown, that this is gonna have to be considered as part of it?
This is 3 blocks north of the library.
Oh, I get it. I know where it is, but I'm still, I mean, this statement is still in here by our Public Works Director, so I'm trying to, you know, read between the lines, I guess.
Well, we could always retain an easement, if we want to vacate that land, could we not, Denny, retain an easement?
Yes, you
for-
could. Yeah, that's an option.
That's agreeable. I agree, you know, when we looked at this several years back and we agreed to, you know, bring it down to its current state, we did have some possibilities or concerns or thoughts of maybe at some point putting a path through there, that a fire truck or an ambulance or whatever, or people, a walking path where people can get down that access, but I'm not sure that's really gonna happen.
I think that's unfeasible with the geography of the
Right.
location.
It would take a lot, it would take a lot to make that work.
The steepness of the bank, and I think Mr. Burchill did answer that part, that there are 2 very good
Yeah.
accesses to that on both ends of that, that would actually be safer and quicker. And so I personally don't see any reason other than I like the easement idea of not allowing this with an easement.
Yeah, that's a thing, my point was, I don't think we really need to hold this any longer, except if there is some type of stormwater concern or whatever, we should
Right.
retain some type of an easement where that we can put something through there if need be.
So it would be a
if that's
shared easement?
agreeable.
So I will make a motion to approve with the, I mean, how big an easement do we need to have, Danny?
Well, he wanted 30 feet initially.
That's what you have.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
asking the big.
I mean, you're talking, you know, talking about
That's the part of-
property is gonna be encumbered by the easement where these people want to declare what they can do with the property as they choose. You've got an easement in there, there's a possibility that, you know, someday the city's gonna go in there and put, so I mean, any improvements they do could be disrupted in the future.
Is it I mean, I don't know, you're here, so, do you plan to just leave it there, or just because you wanted your properties broader, are you planning to build something, or fences? I mean, what's the plan with the
We brought
land?
it to this level to make it look good, and when I built the house there, and Sarah and John built their house, we brought the new elevations up, and I told Mr. Darrell that time we'd sod it, seed it, maintain it, and bring it to a level that looks really good, and we probably get all kinds of compliments on how good that location looks. But as you said, it's a 12 to 16-foot drop straight off the backside. When my house was built, the old storm sewer was tore out because it was a 12-inch clay tile, and it was where the foundation of my house went.
Yeah,
So there's nothing that exists, it's unhooked at the street, there's nothing for it to be anyplace along that way. Our biggest issue is safety. In other words, the NSP, the police department, they drive dual trucks with cranes on up and down the path every day. Fire trucks would have no trouble coming in from the north end and peeling down there with 12 ambulances and lining that place up in a flash. They would be crazy to come by Sarah's house and our house and park fire trucks 16 feet
Yeah.
in the air to try and get to somebody at the water level.
but they're doing that now?
No,
Oh.
never have.
Right, well, you're saying they're,
In 2 years, I've never seen anybody on the land
Okay.
except Sarah and us.
so your plans for the land are just to
We've already
extinguish
done
it
what
so
the
it's,
land-
right,
Our plan
but you're
is
not planning to do
done.
anything, right, you just want to extinguish it so it's your land and
And so that-
nobody can mess with it or come on it,
Do
essentially.
you want us to be standing at that thing?
Penny's like, yes.
No, I feel that what we've done is what we've done, and that's what we wanted to do, and we were told we're free to do it, and as long as what we do, we know that we might undo one day if the city
Right.
ever says, oh, wait, we want this back. if that answers your question about that. Our reason for asking for vacation is, from my perspective, honestly, I'd like the city to consider the reality of, the possible path that would connect. And when you say it's a steep cliff, it's a wall.
Yeah.
It's not a steep cliff, it's a wall. So there's no possibility of driving down there. We would have to do a pretty extensive stairway and a path and an extensive stairway. My question is, what cost is going, he said that was not done because of funding, but, who would benefit from that?
Right.
It's not going to be people in cars. The people in cars are going to go to places that have the parking spots, and that's at the end of Orange, at the end of St. Croix, or at the park. So it's people walking, and that's just the immediate neighborhood, because everybody else is going to go to the main entrances anyway. So from a kind of a rather maybe personal perspective, being the homeowner that lives there, we're talking about a public walking path right on our property, and for very few select people. So if it costs $20,000, and I think that would be, it's probably more like 100. I don't know, maybe they know how much it would cost. But to the benefit of a very few, is that ever going to be a justifiable project? And so we can wipe off the fire truck, we can wipe off the water problem, and then if the last thing is this possibility of a walking path, I just don't see that it's ever going to be worth the cost to the benefit of such a few people. And if the city has no reason to keep the land for anything, and those are the only 3 reasons possible, we just don't see why it would want to retain it.
Okay.
So does this land then move to property tax then? For each of them, they split that, and then that increases property tax?
Well, probably minimally.
Minimal.
But I mean, it's not a city
No, it's not as,
But if I
property
could
anymore.
address that, most people, and probably you too, have your backyard, and you can make a little heaven back there for yourself. We already have, I can't go out in the yard without fully being prepared to chat with someone, because we have the walking path right there. And that's fine, but now we're going to introduce another one right there. This is a nice neighborhood. These are nice homes. That is going to affect market value of those houses. It definitely will.
Well,
And market value does affect property values.
I want to be clear, there's no plans for a path there, and I don't think there ever will be.
Right.
That's kind of what I was trying to say before.
Right.
So the reason why I brought up the easement is that, well, if there is a stormwater issue, then, which I don't think there is, to be perfectly honest, and maybe we want to just talk about that, but I didn't realize it'd be a 30-foot easement either, so.
Okay.
Well, sometimes you just gotta do a gut thing, right? And my gut's telling me to approve this request, because I can't believe there's not another way to redirect stormwater if that's what we're gonna have to do. So,
redirected.
well, right, it's been redirected once, so it's kind of like, I don't know,
So is that a motion?
yes, I'm making a
Wait a
motion.
minute, let me ask one more
Yeah, sure.
question. You had mentioned did you mention that you had problems with your foundation based on the original 12-inch tile?
No, I did not.
Okay, I
None
wondered
whatsoever.
if
We
that,
found the original storm sewer
okay,
when I put that foundation in.
all right,
It was an old clay tile, 12-inch,
yeah.
and it was in bad, nothing the city could ever use again, so.
Oh, no, I didn't expect that. I just wondered whether or not any disturbing of that soil might create issues. Okay.
And
Well, I'm still-
I want to make a comment. It appears that the fire department doesn't need that access. They have 2 great ways to get there. Number 2, there is not going to be a pathway put through there because of the steep bank. And I guess, and then the stormwater issue, as far as I can see, has already been addressed, so I concur with
Yeah.
your opinion that all the issues of concern either won't happen or already been addressed. I would move to approve
Yeah, well, that's
the
why,
request.
Okay,
Why am I-
I'll second the motion.
All right.
thank you. That's why my gut is saying, well, if we are looking at a future plan for Vine Street, well, this can be considered that this is no longer an option. So if you look for other options, it's not like we have the plan laid out and we're
Right.
backing ourselves in a corner. I just don't feel like we'll be backing ourselves in a corner, so.
And, we can, if there is some of those issues, we can talk about them at council.
Yeah, so,
Mary Claire, anything? Frank?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
It's an explanation of the process. Public right-of-way vacation requires a resolution, basically a pre-resolution presented to the common council. They'd have to set a public hearing date. It's a class 3 notice, so you gotta publish it in a newspaper 3 times, and then it'd go back to the council with public hearing and consideration. So you're looking at possibly 2-month process yet, so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Item 5, recommend the municipal code, chapter 132 fireworks, chapter 255 zoning to allow the sale of fireworks on a year-round basis. Todd Erskine Floors, 1719 Cooley Road. Mr. Darnold.
Last time we reviewed this issue, which was the first time, the planning commission remained open to give it future consideration. Asked me to go back and look at some issues. I looked at several ordinances. There's not a lot of ordinances in the state of Wisconsin that allow fireworks sales because most communities do not permit the sale of fireworks per the definition in the state statute. City of Hudson allows the sale of fireworks paraphernalia, which is caps and the much minor type of fireworks. If you, but if you give this consideration, one is the fireworks sale establishments be in the commercial or industrial zones upon a conditional use permit. That would give us an opportunity to look at every application in specific locations. Establishments must be located at least 150 feet from residential properties. State statute says 50. A lot of the local municipalities restrict it. They can be more restricting than state statute. And use 150 establishments located in fueling dispensing apparatus. State statute is 50. Some communities are restricting it 300 feet for bulk flammable combustible liquids, flammable gas or flammable liquefied gas facilities. Establishments located within 250 feet of operable fire hydrant. Establishments must submit a plan for fire department review and approval with regard to the quantity, storage, separation from sales areas and sales display of fireworks, including plan for suppression, including location of fire extinguishers or provision of the sprinkler system. That may depend on the size of the building and the classification of construction. Establishments must comply to all building and fire regulations, sign regulations, general liability insurance, appropriate city inspectors, building inspectors, code officials, police officers shall be authorized to inspect the permitted site without notice and without consent during the reasonable operating hours of the establishment. No exterior storage of fireworks. Sign must be provided that displayed that is illegal to possess or discharge fireworks without a permit from the city of Hudson. So that's essentially, those are the bigger items. There might be other minor items you get into ordinance that you'd want to address, but those are the more significant items. I looked at looking at other community ordinances.
Back to your first statement. You said the city of Hudson takes an exception to the state code by the term paraphernalia, allowing the sale of fireworks. But just getting it straight in my mind, the state doesn't allow it, and this would be against what the state has set up or written.
Well, you can sell fireworks, you cannot possess them.
You can't possess them. Is it still against the law to possess them in the city of Hudson?
Yes. It's
Unless you have a
against the law in Wisconsin to possess them.
And it's anything that goes up and goes boom.
Well, essentially, yeah.
That's the way
That's the easiest
that's
way
the
to
way
look
I
at it.
describe it.
Yep.
It goes up and goes boom, it's illegal. So,
Unless you have a permit
unless you have a permit.
issued by the
Issued
city.
by the
Right.
city of Hudson, and that permit's only good for the city of Hudson. It's not good for any other
Correct.
area outside the city.
Has the police department seen this, and have they made any comments on it?
No, no.
Well, I'm just
If it-
curious,
you know, if
because
it
you'd think
go-
enforcement would be wild on something like this.
Well, that's
Well, I mean, that's the reason for getting the inspections, and then also you charge significant amount of monies to get a permit, which would help pay for inspection considerations.
Why would we want to open ourselves up to this?
That's a good
That's
question.
the question.
That's what we're here for.
I mean, it seems, safety issue, you name it, there's a ton of issues here. Denny, you've done a great job in laying it all out, and I don't know why we'd want to open ourselves up to it.
Okay. Mr. Erskine, do you have any comments? You want to come up and?
Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor Burchell. To your point, the city's already opened itself up to this. During the highest seasons of purchase of fireworks, we're open. It's a 6-week period, is it, Denny?
For sale of fireworks paraphernalia, which is not fireworks under state statute.
Mm-hmm. So the sale of the fireworks that we can all buy around the 4th of July, that's considered paraphernalia?
That's sold in the city of Hudson, correct?
No, the stuff sold in Baldwin or the town or North Hudson.
Or North Hudson?
Right.
Okay. So what I see in Prescott and in Baldwin and in Holton and in North Hudson right there, I guess the reason that it seems such an easy push for the way I look at it is I'm not seeing any and have looked and have not found any problems with the sale of fireworks in those communities. I think it's a good business that the city could generate permit fees and we could employ a good number of people from it. But I don't see I guess I don't see it as a problem in neighboring communities. So I don't know why it would be here, especially in a location that's so visible like mine. It's so well lit any time of day or night. It's just extraordinarily visible. Got a lot of traffic by there all the time. So I'm looking at it as a nice add-on for my business, right? And if, very selfishly, of course, I think that we could have a nice business up there for fireworks sale.
Mr. Erskine, my biggest problem is how do we enforce the permit? If I want to come and buy fireworks from that location, fireworks, real fireworks, I need a permit from the city of Hudson in order to buy them and possess them, from my understanding of the law. Would that be correct? So if I'm a resident of Wisconsin, I need a permit. Where am I going to get that permit on Sunday night at 10 o'clock to come and legally buy those permits?
Knock on your door.
Well,
the way Baldwin does it is they sell them there with every sale.
Right.
Yeah, for like $2 a pop.
Yeah, and it's a
The
huge
city of Baldwin
generator.
allows who is ever selling to the authorization to issue permits on their behalf.
Correct.
And in that permit, it says you have a legal place to set those things off. Where in the city of Hudson do we have a legal place to set those fireworks off? I don't think we do.
I think it just says you can possess them, not set them off.
Well, I know
Is
no
that what the
no
permit
residential
does?
neighborhood would want it.
Possess them. Well, they have
Typically,
them anyway.
those permits, you restrict, at least my understanding, what I've read, is you restrict the area that they could be displayed. And generally, there's restrictions as far as the proximity of somebody attending those types of functions. Typically, the sale of those types of fireworks are for, display. And, something like, I don't know if you're going to display fireworks this weekend at the art festival or the air fair or July 4th, but those are the more common type of events versus somebody going out and doing a display on their own.
I guess I see the whole process here to echo Mary Claire's comments, why would you invite something that's not allowed? It appears that that's being said via some other statements.
And this is something where if if we choose to not do this, that Mr. Erskine as a business owner could apply, like any other business, to have this paraphernalia during that 6-week period,
No paraphernalia
correct?
sales per the existing
which would be
ordinance.
the high point of the purchasing of that paraphernalia anyways, versus
I think you did
today.
that, didn't you?
I
I
certainly
thought you
will-
did that, didn't you?
Certainly will in February. No, we haven't done that yet.
Oh, I thought you did.
The reason for the year-round request, because of the way that I would set it up, would be something that would be hard to take down. If you remember, well, everybody probably has been by what used to be the red, white, and blue building across the highway from
Right.
me, right? Well, that was pretty easy to, pull the contents of that building out, fill it with fireworks for a 6-week period, and then restock it. My building's a lot more, if I'm gonna dedicate space for something, I'm really gonna do a nice job, set it up, and I would like to do that and have it stay in place, rather than all the work it would take to do it for a 6-week period.
Okay. Anybody have any other thoughts? Comments?
I'm uneasy about doing this because I don't want to see 15 other firework companies come into town and start lighting up a 94 with buy one, get the second 99 cents.
So, to the point that you're talking about right now, I'm with you. So, just like liquor stores are limited, fireworks could be limited as well. There could be a certain number of permits allowed per population base or per however it wanted to be.
I think we are opening ourselves up for something that potentially very dangerous. And again, I just go back to the question, why would we open ourselves to do that, to approve something that is really not supposed to be approved? It's not legal. Unless I'm misunderstanding.
There's
Well,
a legality issue.
there's a,
Pardon?
fine difference here.
There
It's-
is a legality issue.
you can sell.
Mm-hmm.
You can sell fireworks to people out of state as long as you're not selling them and they transport them. You can
Yes,
ship them across the state line
yes.
and sell. So it's legal to sell fireworks. It's illegal to possess them. Unless you have a permit,
right.
which is issued by the city of Hudson.
Right. And how many permits, how many people come and get permits?
90% of the sales, I bet, of fireworks at the stands is not people with a permit.
I don't think anyone in my
Oh, but that's-
neighborhood has a
Driving
permit.
by.
That's just paraphernalia, that's,
No, I don't know how they do it in their communities.
No.
'Cause they gotta basically transfer the authority of the city to sell those permits. I don't.
I'm not talking about paraphernalia, I'm talking about the other fireworks stands.
Real fireworks.
oh, yeah, but
Yeah.
not here, not the
No.
ones here.
But that's what we're gonna end up with if this is approved.
So, let's just take this a step further. If we said, okay, is the city then ready to put in place to grant him the authority to give, to give permits for all this stuff around? I mean, because basically that would be the next step, right?
In order to do it legally, yes.
Yeah, they'd charge a fee and the city would get that revenue off of every permit off every sale.
Now, I wouldn't ask for a permit or expect the city to grant me a permit to grant someone the ability to set fireworks off in Hudson, just to buy the fireworks.
Well, I don't know if I'm a 18-year-old or just, 16-year-old kid and I'm buying fireworks, I'm not gonna walk across to Stillwater to light them off. I'm gonna light them off.
You can buy them here, but you can't use
Well,
them.
right, but how many people follow that is what I'm saying, is,
Right.
And I appreciate, looking at different business venues and options, and I'm all about creating
Yeah.
jobs and helping businesses grow and expand. I'm just concerned that this may not be the best venue for the city of Hudson.
It's that great of a concern, really, that we're gonna be filled with 18-year-old kids that are just gonna,
No, you don't have to take me so literally. My point is that there's lots of laws, okay? And I don't really believe that someone's gonna buy their fireworks and take it outside the city limits to light it. I believe that if someone lives in the city limits and they bought fireworks from a vendor, illegal ones, through a permit process, they're probably gonna light them in their backyard or at whatever festivity they're at, wherever it's at. You know, New Year's Eve, wherever.
Just like they do now.
Just like they do now, exactly. So that's my concern, because I know I was, you know, we were all 18 once. We all did things we weren't supposed to do, is my point.
I want to make a comment though too, like and it's around the 6 weeks of the 4th, but I feel a problem we have, if you guys have ever been out to these islands out here,
Yeah.
okay? And there's people shooting these things off a week before, weeks afterwards, and then on top of that, none of that stuff gets picked up. So you go look at that, and that's a disaster, that's a mess. And I'm no proponent of that, that's not Mr. Erskine's fault, but that is a side effect of this type of situation. And to propel that further, I have to say I'm totally against it, because I think we're ruining something that's pristine. There's too many people that don't value what is out there, and they don't take care of it. I'm not, you know, that's just one place and location, but I see it living downtown, and unfortunately I'm against that, not due to you, but because of how it's used and abused.
If
No
I may-
enforcement, nothing to keep it in line.
If I may say, it sounds to me what you're against is the disregard and the use of that property out there and it not being cleaned up.
Is it legal to shoot them out there? Number two, they're doing it at any time and any, you know, at times that,
For months.
for months. Stuff's going up at 10, 11, 12 at night. Those are, I think we're implying that those are the types of misuse that you see. You can say you need a permit, you need to do it a certain way, but that's like telling a kid you can't shoot his BB gun in town, he's gonna do it, you know, and so.
Yeah, that's my point. I don't know, we have anywhere from, 2 to 3 police officers on duty at a time, driving around town. We're already struggling to enforce ordinances that we have, and we're already tight for budgetary reasons to even have enough police officers, according to our police chief, on the street. I'm just in a mode where I don't want to, I'm with Mary Claire, I'm all for businesses, I'm all for growth, I'm definitely for creation of jobs. I've never, you know, gone anywhere different, but I'm just, this, again, makes me nervous. I'm gonna make a motion to deny this request.
I second it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, sale of property of Southwest Quadrant, Crestview Drive and Hagan Street, 1.2 acres, outlot 1, CMS Volume 14, page 3822, Common Council.
The last meeting in August, Plan Commission considered a rezoning and comprehensive plan change for a parcel across from the post office on the west side of Hagan Street. Following and petition for rezoning and comprehensive plan change was approved by the Common Council. After that, the owner of the potential buyer for the property contacted Mayor Burchell and I, had a discussion on a couple of issues. But one of the issues was, would the city consider selling 1.25 acres located immediately west of that parcel? The impacts of the potential sale would be is that they would have more space upon which to put the building. When it was first discussed, I mentioned to them that if the city would even consider selling it, it'd be my recommendation that the trees could not be removed, the slopes, steep slopes could not be disrupted, because that's the reason the city kept that 1.25 acres in the first place. We did discuss at the council, one of the conditions was, you know, it needs to come back from a statutory standpoint to the Plan Commission. With those stipulations, you know, the property would be retained as it is. I mean, you know, if there's a diseased tree or there's a hazardous tree condition or something like, certainly, you know, those have to be removed. Other than that, the property would stay the same, so I'd recommend, giving good consideration to selling that property, which would allow that developer a little more flexibility on their development.
As a percentage of the property, Denny, how much of it is steep slopes and how much of it is wooded? If you-
Almost all of it.
It also helps him when he sets his building, there's no setbacks, and he doesn't need
Right.
the variance then if he
Right.
owns that property.
What's the term of the sale? Has he made an offer?
Well, what was approved by the Common Council, there were, one is that they approved me to negotiate price. The negotiated price was $15,000. That was agreed to by the Common Council, and the reason, it may not sound much. When you put stipulations, that you can't cut trees, you can't, it diminishes the value. The value that was agreed upon between the potential buyer and the Common Council is the value of how it helps them site their building. That's where the value of the property comes. Second condition was no removal of trees, no grading on slopes greater than 12%. Other part of the consideration was the sale to from Mr. Kinney to them has to be consummated. This sale would not move ahead until that time. And then the planning commission consideration was last.
One last question. How much of this from the top or the northernmost part going south abuts up to that building that's to the west of it? I mean, if you
Well,
have,
it's,
say, a
probably-
distance
yeah,
factor, how
probably-
far down on this thing?
Probably northerly 2/3. I did visit with.
Really, the only open land is just that little bottom triangle. there.
Correct.
Correct. And I did visit with Mr. Burchell, Mayor Burchell asked me to contact it, the Prairie Point, visit with them about it. They didn't get back to me, but the conversation I did had indicated that their only concern was that the building wasn't built directly east of them, which kind of blocked views, but that's the real narrow area.
Right.
And this building would be built further south, so it would be set south and east of their building. I did not receive a follow-up call. But at that time, Mr. Erickson didn't indicate to me he had any concerns about.
Do we need to make that a condition if we approve this?
Not
Or no?
necessarily, no.
Okay.
I'll move that we approve the sale of the property.
The stipulations on the usage on that, on the slopes and the trees, that would go with the property regardless of what happened to it to a new buyer, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, if this sale, if a sale would not be consummated, regardless, my recommendation would be those conditions, because that's the reason we kept that parcel in the first place. So the only thing we're changing is ownership. The conditions of retaining it as is, steep slopes and trees. At the time that was done was to help mitigate the impacts of visibility of buildings in that area from the residential area to the west. I think those conditions will still be retained, so.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other business for informational purposes?
Next
Or for
meeting is,
upcoming agendas?
yeah, next meeting is October 6th. I
Okay.
think that's a Thursday. Or it is a Thursday, whatever that first day is.
Thursday, yeah.
Yep.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.